Clarity on Fire, a podcast for people who know what they don't want out of their life and career, but aren't sure what they'd rather be doing.
In a world where it's easy to exist, but hard to feel alive, we, Kristen
and Rachel,
2 certified life and career coaches, are here to help you cut through the information overload, get unstuck, and focus not just on how you can have a career you're passionate about, but how to create a whole life that feels fulfilling.
So join us here, where we serve up inspiration and down-to-earth wisdom in a way that only 2 best friends can.
We want you to experience the relief of knowing that, yes, you're allowed to want more out of your life and career.
And no, you don't have to wander through the dark anymore. Our job is to light the fire that shows you the way. Let's go. Now, I know that you and I are opposed to polygamy.
Correct.
And would never consider being sister wives. Because one of the most important things is reasons why that would be, other than it's a little bit grody, in my opinion, is to share a husband with your best friend. It just feels weird. Is because we do not have the same taste in men.
That's true.
We just don't. And it's actually very helpful. Like when we watch a show, we're both crushing on different characters. And
different main dudes on the show.
I just think that has served us and our friendship well.
It has.
With the exception of Malcolm Gladwell.
Oh, God, I love him so much.
We love Malcolm Gladwell, and I have not yet had enough of a reason to proclaim my love on this podcast.
We've even mentioned him on this podcast.
We must have mentioned him in passing a time or two, but never to the degree that he deserves for the place that he has in our hearts.
I know.
Now, let me clarify. We are not sexually attracted to Malcolm Gladwell.
No.
I get a very asexual vibe
But I am attracted to his mind.
I love his mind. I love the way it works. I love that his whole body of work, all of his books, and his podcast, which
if you didn't know he has a podcast,
Revisionist History is
listen to that podcast.
It is one of the best podcasts ever. And I really get as excited for that as I think some people get about like the Super Bowl. Like it is my Super Bowl.
I know. When a new season comes back, I'm like giddy.
I mean, it's almost like when Outlander comes back on TV or when The Crown comes back. Like these are things I get all year. So excited about because it is such good material, and that is what Malcolm Gladwell is consistently providing. So
the reason we're completely gushing about Malcolm Gladwell right now.
We're going ham on Malcolm Gladwell, right?
And he deserves it. He deserves it.
We just love him so much.
It's because he is what inspired this topic for my blog today. And I even mentioned him again at the start of the blog, so you're not even done hearing
there's a
him.
whole podcast episode you should listen to from Revisionist History this last season.
It's actually two-part.
Oh, that's true. It's
episode.
A 2-part. I think it's the first 2 episodes of his latest season.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Well, there you go.
And I give you a synopsis of what his podcast is all about once I get into the blog, so you have a better sense of it. Hopefully it doesn't even matter because we've been gushing so much. You're just going to go listen to it no matter what it's about. Mm-hmm. But the first 2 episodes of his most recent season are what sparked the topic for what I wrote about today. And because I've been thinking about this almost constantly since I heard him bring this topic up.
That's what Malcolm will do.
I know.
He will just plant earworms, brainworms, and they just... Because the reason we love him so much is because he forces people to reframe everything they thought they were taking for granted.
He is a master at changing your perception of something.
Yeah, which is why coaches, obviously, we love doing that too. So he does it in a different way. He does it in a more studious, intellectual, scholarly way. And we do it in a more emotional way. But that's why we love him so much, is because he does what we try to do with our clients and just in general through this podcast.
He
just
feels
has
like a kindred spirit.
Yeah. So if you like our podcast, I think you would really have fun with Revisionist History too.
Yeah.
It's for smart people. And I feel like smart people listen to this podcast.
Yeah. I like to think so.
Yeah.
You guys are smart.
Anyway.
So
is that enough gushing about
I know. So I've been thinking about this a lot since I heard those episodes. And I've been introducing this concept to a few clients. And it's been really helpful for people and for me. So I want to get into this today and introduce it to all of you. It's about the tortoise and the hare. And you guys all know that
story.
That old story about the tortoise and the hare racing. And the way it works is we're all one or the other. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to get into what does it mean to be a tortoise and what does it mean to be a hare and what are the upsides and the downsides and how do you start to work more based on how you're wired instead of trying to be something you're not, which is what a lot of us are doing all the time in life. So this is one more arena to just acknowledge and accept this is how I am and let me make the best of it.
Mm-hmm. It's all about your processing of work and the time it takes you to do it. And there's no wrong or right way, but a lot of people are trying to do it in a way that actually doesn't work for them.
Yep. Yeah. It's about how you think and about how you work. And
the time it takes you to do it in.
Yep.
Yeah. So enjoy this. And I promise that I'll take a chill pill on Malcolm Gladwell on this podcast, but I'm free to talk about him however much I want in my real life. So.
Which is a lot.
Okay. We'll be back in a minute.
Are you a tortoise or a hare? I'm slightly obsessed with Malcolm Gladwell's podcast, Revisionist History. It appeals to my nerdy, inquisitive side. In case you're curious, here's the official description of his podcast. Revisionist History is Malcolm Gladwell's journey through the overlooked and the misunderstood. Every episode re-examines something from the past, an event, a person, an idea, even a song, and asks whether we got it right the first time, because sometimes the past deserves a second chance. In the latest season of his podcast, he started out with a 2-part series about the LSAT, in which he described a distinct difference between two types of people that I haven't been able to stop thinking about since I originally heard it months ago. He categorized most people as being either tortoises or hares. Whether you're a tortoise or a hare impacts everything in your life, from the way you work, to the way you communicate, to the way you think. Neither is better or worse, but trying to go against your type is going to feel miserable, frustrating, and just unsustainable. Honestly, this distinction has been as impactful to me and to many of my current clients who I've been sharing it with as learning that I am an introvert, not an extrovert. It's a game changer. So let's get into how to tell what type you are, how to work with your type instead of against it. Life as a hare. Hares are people who get a lot done in a short amount of time. He was the kid in your high school classes who always turned his test in before everyone else. Or she's the one who was always first to share an idea or a solution in a work meeting. Their minds have an Energizer bunny quality to them. They're quick with a retort or an idea, sometimes without fully even thinking it through. Because they're so freaking efficient, they can juggle a lot of tasks and deadlines at once with relative ease, although sometimes things can fall through the cracks because they're so quickly moving on to the next thing. They tend to be more linear with their way of thinking and getting work done. Work on this, then complete this, then move on to this. Check, check, check. They'll feel restless if a meeting is taking too long or meandering off topic. And they can get impatient waiting for other people to finish their part of a project. Best-selling author James Patterson is a hare. That man is prolific, reliably cranking out multiple books every single year. It's incredible. Just like everything in life, being a hare comes with its pros and cons. Pros: hares are efficient, working through their to-do list with ease. Because they're such quick thinkers, they're great with on-the-spot answers, and they're especially useful in a crisis. They're great at meeting deadlines, and they're much more likely to thrive in faster-paced, high-pressure situations and working environments. Cons: by thinking and working so quickly, they often miss more subtle nuances and depth. Because they respond in the moment, they sometimes regret their reaction or change their mind later on once they've had more time to process the situation. They're not especially detail-oriented since getting that far down in the weeds would require slowing down. Life as a tortoise. Tortoises are slow, methodical, and deep thinking. They do not get a lot done in a short time. But when they are finally done, they've done a thorough job. These are your in-the-weeds people, and they can't help but examine something from all angles, sometimes getting lost in the details, but coming out with a deep understanding of the thing. They're prone to meandering, following tangents, going down rabbit holes, and generally following their curiosity wherever and however deep it leads. Their minds naturally take the metaphorical windy back roads to get to their destination, not the more efficient highway. It might take them multiple times as long to finish a project as it would a hare, but the final product will be deeply thought out and well-researched, and they'll have a detailed understanding of all facets of it. They may seem quiet or even detached in a conversation or meeting because they're not saying much, but that's because they're taking their time to process it all. Adele is a great example of a tortoise. She'll go dark for long stretches of time, and we're lucky if we get a new Adele album every 3 to 4 years. But when she finally emerges with her latest creation, it's pure gold. Being a tortoise also comes with its pros and cons. Pros: tortoises produce high-quality, detailed, well-thought-out work. They're more likely to discover interesting connections between concepts, ideas, and possible solutions because of their tendency toward mental meandering. They end up being go-to experts on certain topics because they've immersed themselves in the material. Cons: they're unlikely to have a good idea or response in the moment, and they often kick themselves later once they have time to think about what they wish they'd said. They're easily stressed by ticking deadlines, and their work quality plummets when they feel rushed. They are not great multitaskers since their natural preference is for quality over quantity. Knowing your type makes all the difference. Whatever your type, you probably feel prejudiced against at times. Hares often feel like they should be more of a quote-unquote expert on a particular topic since our culture believes that expertise equals success. But hares would much rather remain high level and not get bogged down with the details. Tortoises often feel even more misunderstood in our fast-paced world simply because our modern society puts a premium on speed and instant gratification. Most people and companies lack the patience necessary to allow tortoises to do their best work. The worst, however, is when you put pressure on yourself to be different from how you're naturally wired. If you're a hare, trying to think or work like a tortoise is going to feel tedious and maddening to you. And if you're a tortoise trying to emulate a hare, you'll constantly feel stressed and like you're not putting out quality work. We may not be able to change our culture's perception of tortoises and hares, although here's hoping we get there one day. But you can accept yourself for whichever type you are and seek out people, experiences, and jobs that are best suited for you. How to work with your type, not against it. One of my clients is a tortoise, and learning this about herself has been eye-opening. She told me that she spent most of her life trying to be a quote-unquote good enough hare, when really she just wanted to go at her naturally slower-paced tortoise pace. She was recently trying to decide between a few possible role changes within her company and was feeling torn. One of them, which she felt she should apply for, was with a competitive, fast-paced, deadline-driven team. She'd been procrastinating applying for that role and now could finally explain why. It was a perfect job for a hare, but she would have always felt out of sync with that team and their pace of work. Ultimately, she was able to let that role go, angst-free, and instead apply for a position that better suited her tortoise nature. Another of my clients is a true hare. She's known for getting her work done quickly and efficiently, usually well before the deadline. Because she works faster than most of her coworkers, she often gets asked to take on some of their spillover work. She came to me asking how to feel less grumpy about being quote-unquote rewarded for her efficiency by being expected to do more work for people who are behind. I told her the cool thing about being ahead of schedule and having a bit of downtime is that she can pick and choose what things she wants to help other teams out with and what she'd rather decline. Instead of feeling resentful for getting extra work piled on her plate, she could ask herself, what are some things that I'm curious to try or learn more about that I don't get to do on a daily basis? And then only agree to help out with those types of tasks. Or better yet, preemptively request to help with those things before other people ask her to do more mundane or annoying tasks. Now, she gets to keep being the efficient hare that she is, and she's also more in control of how she uses her downtime at work once her daily to-do list is done. Whether you're a speedy hare or a slow and steady tortoise, life gets easier when you accept how you're wired and take life at your preferred pace. I would love to hear from you. Are you a tortoise or a hare? How have you been working or living in opposition to your type? And how can you get more in sync with your natural pace? Leave me a comment to let me know.
Okay.
We did keep gushing after we stopped recording about Malcolm Gladwell.
We did.
But I promise we'll stop now that the microphone is back on.
Oh, that's so funny. We really did. Okay. So a couple of things that I want to remind you about. One, in case you hadn't heard us mention it, I don't think we mentioned it on Friday in our interview with Francisca. So I want to mention it because it's been a week or so and it's tomorrow. So if you have ever thought about the prospect of becoming a coach as a career and what that might entail and what that looks like and what the possibilities are and how one can actually use a coaching certificate.
And how do you get certified? And what does that look like?
If those are questions that pique your interest, then we want to invite you to an interview that we're giving for IPEC, the Institute for Professional Excellence in Coaching, which is happening tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Tomorrow, that would be Wednesday, the 2nd, at 12:30 p.m. Eastern.
It's a video interview.
It's a webinar. Live Q&A,
you'll be able to ask us questions.
Mm-hmm. And we've got some points that I want to cover and I want to get into. There will be a moderator, so like someone there to sort through your questions and help ask, pitch us the best ones. So if you want to be there live, that would be great. And you could ask us some questions. If not, you can register still, RSVP, and you will get a replay. I'm told from IPEC that you won't get it for 3 or 5 business days, but you will eventually get emailed a replay if you can't be there live. So again, this is for people who are pretty interested or really curious about how we became coaches and then how you might be able to apply that to your career. I just want to give you a little insight into the fact that coaching is something you can apply to literally any career. You do not have to quit your job to become a coach. A lot of people integrate it into the work they're already doing to help them be better leaders, and it works so well.
Coaching is not a profession. Coaching is a skill that you can use. It's a communication skill that you can use in so many arenas of your life. So you don't have to think, well, I guess I have to quit my job and become a coach if I'm interested in this. No, not at all. So if you're at all interested in the interworkings of what happens in coaching and how it works and how it can be applied, that's what we're going to be getting into tomorrow. So we hope to see some of you guys. That would be really fun.
And one last thing I will say, and the reason we keep saying this is for people who are seriously interested, is because IPEC may very well, if you sign up, follow up with you and be like, hey, are you interested in coach training? You don't have to respond. You don't have to, I don't know, answer the phone or whatever they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do. But you don't have to, I just want you to know that it's for prospective students. And so it's for people who are serious enough in the idea that you're not going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe that someone would want to talk to me about this. IPEC is not very pushy or salesy. I wouldn't like it if they were, and I don't think I would want to do an interview with them if I knew that was how they were going to be.
They're much more just supportive, and they recognize you might be in the bit of the research phase of this.
Yeah, and they might want to actually help you answer some questions. So anyway, we like IPEC so much. We went there 7 years ago is when we started.
We've gone back and volunteered to help out with different modules.
Most of our friends we met through IPEC. So it's a great community. They do such good coach training work in the world. And so if you're interested, then the link to register will be in the show notes. So go over there. And other reminder, I won't spend as long on this because we've been talking about it. But a week from today, we will be beginning the process. We'll have that 10-day window between October 8th and October 18th when we will be taking on new clients, which means you'll be able to fill out a form, get on the phone to talk to us if you're really serious about the prospect of getting into some one-on-one coaching.
Yeah.
And I want to say that next Tuesday, instead of a new blog, I'm just hinting at this, we're going to have an episode about why career coaching has almost nothing to do with your career. So if that sounds interesting to you, or if you're like, oh, I thought that's what you guys did, I'm confused, stay tuned, because I want to have a whole conversation about why career coaching has very, very little to do with your career and why that's never actually the best place to start or focus when you start coaching.
Which might surprise some of you.
Yeah.
So there's nothing you have to do about this right now. We're going to be emailing you if you're on our email list, which if you're not, go take the quiz on our website to make sure that you are.
Go take the passion profile quiz.
But we will be emailing you, and we'll also obviously be letting you know again on the podcast starting on Tuesday. So you don't have to do anything now, but just be starting to think about, hey, could this be a good time?
There's one thing you could do, which is if you're serious about getting more info, you can go to the link in our episode description in the show notes and read about one-on-one coaching. You can go read about it and get the price chart and like just understand what it would entail so that you can know one way or the other if this is something you want to talk more about starting next week.
Yeah, exactly. Start the wheels turning and see if this might be the right time, if this might be the right thing for you. And we will talk to some of you guys in a couple of weeks.
Okay. And we will see you on Friday with a new episode of Dear Rachel. Okay, we've got 3 good questions. It was kind of a long one. Couldn't edit myself. Just had to answer all of these. So
you guys don't expect any different by now.
Okay. All right. Well, here's to our mutual love of Malcolm Gladwell. May we never meet him in person and fight to the death over his affection. I would win.
You might.
All right. See you Friday.
Bye.